Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to the Mo Show podcast. Today we have Lina Hashem, someone who I wanted on the show for the longest time. For whatever reason, our paths didn't cross, and here we are today, and I'm super fortunate. Welcome, Lina.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited.
I am even more excited, honestly, because it's episodes like yours where the audience really gravitate towards, because it's about self-help. It's about stories. You as a therapist, how did I help this person, and how do you overcome the anxieties and stress of life? And it's something that I feel a lot of people will be able to extract good from. So I'm equally excited to have you here, maybe even more than you are excited to be here. Your journey into therapy, Lina, it started when, and what prompted you to want to become one?
So I wasn't always the easiest child. And, back then parents didn't necessarily send you to a therapist. I didn't really know what was going on. I had a rough time as a child, and I was pretty problematic, and I did things, when I look back, if I probably had a therapist, I would have been in a different place at that time, but everything happens for a reason. So when I was 16, I started university. I was a bit young. I moved to Miami, and psychology seemed like my calling. I was really passionate about self-exploration and healing, and there was so much I needed to learn about myself because I wasn't necessarily happy with myself. I wasn't happy with the person I was. So for my own self-fulfilling prophecy, I went into psychology to figure myself out. And I wasn't exactly sure if this is for me. So I did 3 years. And during my fourth year, when I was 19, I decided, living in Miami, I needed something to keep me in line a little bit. So I started working at a juvenile detention in Jackson Memorial Hospital, which was affiliated with the University of Miami, which is where I went. And I feel that work experience was what made me realize that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. Because I was basically dealing with kids who were from the ages of 13 to 18, who were court-ordered, who were picked up off the streets, drug addicts, solicitors, thieves, born into really unfortunate situations and sent to this juvenile detention to be treated. And it was shocking and devastating. I'm sure you can imagine, for me growing up in Saudi, extremely sheltered. We didn't have satellite back then. The only exposure to the West really was Channel 2 Full House. So that was quite an extreme, dealing with and seeing these poor children, teenagers, what they were going through. And it made me realize, wow, I'm really fortunate. But I had young girls who were pregnant at 13, 14. I remember there was a case where a girl was, had AIDS, pregnant, left on the streets to be solicited. It was awful. A boy who was 13 years old, addicted to crack, who couldn't even complete a sentence. And I remember going home and crying and feeling like this world is so unfair. And what made me realize that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, which is psychology, is when I would watch their journey and see how they improved with the right environment and therapy and attention and time. It made me feel that there is hope and everyone can change. And I wanted to be a part of that change. So I think that's when I realized I'm doing the right thing.
How much has what you saw in your early days in Miami, like how much has it affected you in wanting to pursue? Was it like, that's it, you know what, I want to help this ugly side of humanity that exists? Was that the point when you felt that you wanted to do your part for society?
I would say that that's when I knew that I was studying what I was meant to be studying. And, you have to remember, I was only 19, so I was a child myself. And it helped me really connect and learn how to connect with that age group. Teenagers and kids are our future. And sometimes people are put in situations or grow up in unfortunate environments that don't really give them a chance. And seeing the way this place really helped these children inspired me. And I knew that I wanted to pursue higher education from that point on.
Normally, when we start episodes, it's cheerful. It's, what have you been up to recently?
Right.
How are you? Forgive me if I'm a little, off balance or out of my comfort zone, because you started with what I can only describe as fireworks, and I wasn't ready for that. But I'm glad you did, because this is something that needs to be addressed, and I'm glad that it was addressed in the beginning.
And it's reality.
It's reality. It's reality.
It's life.
It's reality. So
Yeah.
when you said pregnant girls and AIDS at the age of 13 and 14, I haven't heard such
Right.
craziness.
Absolutely.
Not at that age.
Right. It was devastating. It was really difficult. And I think that experience, and I was there for almost 3 years, working there, definitely I've developed thick skin because of it. And it's helped me through my journey as a therapist, for sure. And I'm so thankful.
So sorry to interrupt. So the effects, being exposed to what you were exposed to at the age of 19, had a positive. You managed to make it a positive.
I made it positive. Right. It could have torn me down, or it could have been my superpower. And I believe that it is. I believe that even though I had a difficult time dealing with it, I was able to look at it in a different way and think, okay, this is what the world's like. I can't change what's happened, but I can try to change or help people change their lives around them and change their individual experiences.
What's to come, yeah.
Yeah.
Therapy has a different interpretation for many people. Mm-hmm. Those who seek it, those who don't, those who want to, those who never want to. How would you define therapy in all the years that you have been practicing it? To the ears that either resisted it or haven't tried it yet, how would you define the process of therapy? I know it's a broad question, but how would you tackle it?
Therapy is, I feel, when people reach a point where they've tried everything. Or even if they haven't tried everything, they just feel that they need someone who's objective to help them have a better understanding of themselves or what they're going through. It really helps to go see a therapist and talk and figure out what areas in their lives need to change. What do they need to tackle? Educating them. Education is power. And that's something I really want to stress on, because once people come in and they decide to have, to seek therapy, and they get educated as to what's happening, that's half the battle. Understanding what is happening in your brain, what's going on in your life, gives you the power to control it and know how to deal with it. It's incredible.
How do you feel about the future in regards to increased levels of anxiety and worry? And it's something I don't want to think about, but I have to think about because I have a kid and you have 3, mashallah.
Yeah.
Do you ever think of the future and like what kind of world our kids will be growing up in?
So what's changed now in comparison to before is social media and the internet. And there is so much pressure on us to be the perfect person, the perfect mother, perfect father, child. There's so much pressure for perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. And when you're constantly bombarded by these images that are filtered and edited, you almost forget that perfection doesn't exist because you see it in front of you. And so you're fooled by what you see, even if you're aware of it. So as adults, we know that, and we still are impacted. Imagine this young generation, what they're going through. And that's why, I have an 11-year-old, and she's always fighting me to get a phone, and I'm refusing. I'm holding.
Until now, huh?
Yeah, I'm refusing. I see what it can do to young children, and it scares me. When you asked me, am I afraid for my children? I am, absolutely. But I can't change the world. The world is changing so rapidly. The only thing I can do is try to instill values and build a really close relationship with my children and teach them right from wrong to the best of my ability. But we can't change the world. The world's only getting worse. You know, you switch on the news. I tell all my anxious clients, do not watch the news. You switch it on and it's, you know, flesh-eating viruses. People are dying, war, poverty, kids going in and shooting, massacre in schools. It is just the most depressing thing to be watching and my husband and I used to watch the news all the time. We've stopped, not because we're anxious, but more, it's just so sad what's happening in this world. So definitely it does provoke anxiety. Dr. Google, when I was a child, I'd be sick. My parents would take me to a specialist. Now, what do? My son has a headache, a temperature. I go on to Google, I research what it is, and then it comes up with the most extreme diagnosis. So something I definitely want your viewers to pay attention to, and just do not Google medical diagnoses. Go to a specialist. Be old school with that, because it will take you down a really ugly road.
I recently read that Google, Apple, Facebook, and all the companies they own were established by people who played on their bicycles outside when they were younger.
Of course.
Which painted a scary picture. What are the current youngsters who aren't outside in the fresh air, who aren't getting fresh oxygen, who aren't getting vitamin D? What are they gonna, you'd hope that they invent stuff that is better than Apple, better than Google, better than Facebook and its companies. But if you're indoors constantly consuming what those companies have created, it to be honest, it creates a pretty bleak future.
Right. And also communication and social skills. They go out into the world, they can't pick up on normal social skills, social cues. They communicate through messaging I think it's very easy for them to communicate behind the screen rather than in person, and it really affects them socially also.
My problem with my son watching the iPad from time to time, now that you mention it, is that it's one-way communication.
For sure.
That's detrimental.
Makes their brain lazy.
And it's not normal.
No, it's not normal.
Life it will never be about one-way communication, ever.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll have clients bring in their 2-3-year-old and say, I think my child is autistic. And their child will be disconnected, no eye contact, doesn't communicate or mesh well with others, seems to have, all the signs that he could be autistic. But then when I sit down with the parents and I really understand how this child spends their time, behind a screen, no one communicates with him or her. No one they're not creating a stimulating environment to encourage communication skills, social skills. And so what I'll do is I'll tell them, okay, let's try something out. Take a complete break for 6 months. No iPad. Completely. And they get really scared because the iPad is the best kind of nanny. But I'll say no iPad. And minimal TV time. And I promise you, 6 months later, that child, they give them things to do with their kids, play with them, spend time with them, go outside, ride a bike, read to them. In 6 months, you see a completely different child.
Reversed?
A child that's connecting. In this world, in this generation, I feel we are very connected, but at the same time, extremely disconnected.
Yeah, how funny. The irony.
Yeah, so...
Does mental health problems, do they develop or stem from a young age? If you are, prone to the iPad or not getting fresh air, or if you are a product from your environment, can that cause mental health issues growing up?
So if I was to start from the very beginning, so when a child is born, they take 50% of each parent. And God knows what their parents have given them, their predispositions. And based on their environment and what they see in their parents, the interactions, the exposure to iPad, it makes the children either better or worse. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that. So when a baby is born, their brain, the size of their brain, is roughly a quarter size of an adult's. By the time they're 1, it's doubled. By the time they're 3, it's 80%. By the time they're 5, it's 90%. So you have to think about how quickly their brain develops. They are a sponge. So it is so important. These 5 years are the most important years of a person's life. This is their foundation, their building blocks. And what's so exciting and sometimes missed is parents get a front row seat. They are, their school of life. And I always tell my clients, I ask them, what kind of school of life are you? So if because your child's learning when they cry, what happens? When they laugh, when they make a mistake. How do you react to that? What do you do? If your child went to a school at 4 years old, 3 years old, and made a mistake and the teacher smacks your child, what would you do? And most parents tell me, well, I'd be very upset. I'd take him out of the school.
I'll throw a chair at the teacher.
So why does it make it okay that you do it? If you are the most, the parents, the caregivers are the most important people in this innocent, vulnerable child's life who just wants to learn. And he or she will only learn from the environment he's in and the interactions. So we need to provide them with the best environment. But we have to remember we're not perfect, as we have stated earlier. So we will make mistakes, right? But we can't expect our children to be perfect also. Children are meant to make mistakes to learn. So if a child makes a mistake, what should we do? Do we shame them? Do we put them down? Do we hit them? Or do we teach them in a way that will actually teach them? You hit someone, you shut them up. They become fearful of you, or they become a bully themselves. You want to teach them the right way through respect, appreciation, empowering them, because you're giving your children the tools of life. If I was to ask you as a parent to your adorable son, how would you describe, if you were a school of life, how would you describe it? Are you proud of it? Are there things that you do that you wish to change, or you feel maybe he's not benefiting? Or are there things that you're proud of? We learn from our parents. Hopefully we learn from their mistakes. We don't replicate them. And we try to do better. And we want better for our children too. So if you were a school of life, and you are for your son, how would you describe your role, your school?
So interaction, to answer your question, is my school of life. Being there, available as much as I can. But what scares me? Where do you draw the line between? And I read this recently in a book. Where do you draw the line between being there for your kids, giving them all the support you need, against protecting them from the real world and the atrocities that happen there? Because we shield them from the world in the house, but when they enter the real world, it's not as glamorous and comforting over there as it is at home. And a lot of parents take the strict role of I'm preparing you for the real world and all that. That's not my philosophy. I don't know how to do that, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just don't know how to be that strict, military grade parent. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, all the comfort and love and you're amazing at what you do and all that I'm giving to him at the house. When you enter the real world is about rejection. It's about being left out. It's about, being spoke of. It's about being made fun of. It's about being bullied or bullying yourself. Like, it's an ugly world over there.
Right.
So, not to flip the question on you, but I have a question, in my answer to you. Where do you draw the line between cushioning them and preparing them for the real world?
Right.
Because I don't know, Lina.
I mean, you want them to have, you don't want them to believe that the world is such an ugly place also. You want them to grow it during these formative years, you want them to feel secure, feel safe, feel loved. Giving them that quality time is essential. If there's any time to give them quality time, it's at this stage. Of course, every stage they need us, but this stage especially. So what you want to do is you want to encourage them to get into sports, into activities, build their self-confidence, not turning them into a complimentary junkie. You're the best. You're amazing. Because no, they're not. There's always someone who's better, who's smarter, who's more capable. But it's more about focusing on their efforts, their capabilities, working on their skills, empowering them through positive reinforcement rather than, oh, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. What's wrong with you? Why do you keep making mistakes? You want to say what you want to see in them. So you're capable. You're smart. Okay, so you want to encourage that, but you don't want to also let them know that this world is such an ugly place. They will learn that. So you want to build them up. You're going to give them those tools of life, and then they're going to go into the world and they're going to have to fend for themselves like we all did.
Strong enough to adapt.
They're going to have to adapt. Exactly. Confidence is key with children, and at any age, even now as adults, confidence is what gets you through. Helps you through. When you believe in yourself, then you can pretty much do anything.
You hear about that a lot. The best thing you can do for your kids is reinforcements in them knowing that you believe in them.
Right.
That could be the only ingredient they need to be the best version of themselves.
But can I just say also, self-confidence comes from us as parents. Spending time with them. We are the most important people in their lives. So when we spend time with them, in their minds, their simple minds, they think, I'm important. They love me. They're here with me. So it is really essential for you to put aside time and give your son the time that he needs. And it's not about hours on end. It's about the quality. Mm-hmm. I have some moms who are home all day long. Do nothing with their children, nothing. Where a working parent will come home, play, read, engage. That is a lot more beneficial than the mom that's home all day.
But they remember experiences a lot more than a material thing that you get them.
Absolutely.
And it's...
But that can change with time. So that's why it really is important for you to instill that early on in life, where that quality time is part of your family values. Mm-hmm. You need to give him that time because as they get older, they move away from us. Yeah. They don't want us anymore. Yeah. Now it's like, Baba, put me to bed. Read me a story. I'm like, oh, okay, we're exhausted. It's been a long day at work, but still push yourself because it means the world to them.
Speaking of parents and the role that your father had on you,
yes.
He is known in Jeddah and Saudi Arabia in his role as a pediatrician, and a very famous one, mashallah. Did he have an effect on you wanting to enter the field of helping people?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, my father is my inspiration. I mean, I just talking about him gets me emotional. He is so passionate about what he does and loves his patience, his work, that it really resonates with, people every single day growing up. And I swear to you, every single day, people would come when they'd find out that my dad is who he is. They would have something good to say about him, mashallah. And I grew up with that. But I have to say I was a little bit angry with him, because he wasn't there. My dad was always working. His second wife was his job. His patients were his other children. So it was a difficult thing for me. My poor mom had to take care of me on her own. And I'm so sorry, Mom. I drove her really crazy. But it's okay. Everything, works out. But I'll say when things changed for me. My dad, I was actually quite afraid of him when I was a child. I didn't have a very close relationship with him. I would say things changed. I'll tell you when. So we were And I remember this moment. We were all having lunch, and lunch was a must. It was the only time of the day that we'd see my dad besides Fridays. And we all had to be available and present. I was maybe 8 or 9 years old at the time. And I remember we were all sitting around the table, and we hear someone screaming outside, screaming and yelling. And we all run outside, see what's going on. We lived 2 minutes away from Noura building, which is where my dad's old office was. Literally, wherever we lived, the office is right next door.
Smart man.
And so we all run outside to see what's going on. And we see this father, I'll never forget it, carrying this little boy, lifeless in his arms, screaming. He was running to Noura building. And my dad, and he's like, I was coming to see you. He runs in. My dad shoos us away. Of course, me being the cheeky child that I was, I went and I peeked through the window, and I watched him perform CPR on this little boy. I can't remember how, maybe 5, 6 years old. And
you or
no,
the boy?
The boy was about 5, 6 years old, and he performed CPR. And I mean, to me, the boy was gone. That was it. It was very emotional. With the matter of time, I started to see there was a bit of movement in the boy. You see the father's face change, my dad, and suddenly this boy came to life. So you can imagine as an 8 or 9 year old what I thought, what I saw. I saw my dad has magical powers. He brings people to life. And that's when I knew that my dad was doing what he's meant to be doing. And I understood it. It was then that I was no longer angry after that. I got it. And I understood that this is what he should be doing. Yeah. And it made me just so proud of him. I am. He's incredible. Habibi, Allah yahmi. So I would say that's when things changed between me and him. I realized.
What a story. What a hero. You mentioned something about the counseling process and the journey that it takes for your client to go through that process of counseling. Can you just touch on what that experience is like, perhaps for those who know nothing about therapy?
Okay. So clients will come in. They either are in a situation that they have tried everything and they haven't been able to figure things out, or they feel stuck or don't understand what's going on. So anyways, they make the appointment, they show up. Sometimes they don't even know why they're there. And when they come in, I introduce myself. I give them a little bit about my background, and I tell them, confidentiality, trust, honesty, those things are very important. But what's really important, especially in this part of the world, is understanding that therapy is not a quick fix. It takes time. So that's part of that introductory part. Once we've established that, we create a relationship between us, which sets, where they sit down and I tell them, okay, I want you to start from the very beginning. And I want you to tell me about your earliest memory and kind of go through it, like as if you're looking through a photo album of the good and the bad, the highs and the lows. And they take me through that journey, and it sets the stage for what is to come. Then the next part is assessing the problem together. So all of this is a collaboration. I don't have a magic wand. I'm not going to change everything and fix everything. So then together we assess what the problem is. We see the triggers. We go more in depth. Family, school, work, relationships, all different things that may be triggering this individual. Then last, and during that stage, actually, I educate them a lot, because I really believe a lot of therapists don't educate their clients as to what is happening here. So when the client knows what's happening here, they're able to tackle it better. And then the last part is setting realistic goals. And I will stress on the fact that they are realistic and they're small steps, so not to overwhelm them. And we go through that journey together, and it's a beautiful thing to witness. And I learn from my clients every single day. It's an incredible. They learn from me, and I learn from them. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's definitely two-way communication there.
For sure.
What kind of therapy practices do you offer?
Okay. So there are two different kinds of therapy that I do offer depending on what is going on or what the presenting problem is. So one is client-centered therapy, which I love. It's non-directive. The client takes the reins, takes me the way that he or she wants to go. And here it's really important for me as a therapist to be congruent with my clients, to be genuine, to have unconditional positive regard, to be accepting, to be empathetic, to really be that support for them. So a lot of the times I find these clients, it's more of a venting session or need to increase their self-awareness, or they just need a bit of guidance.
Yeah. Lina, can I say something?
Sure.
Venting feels good.
Oh.
Whenever I vent, I'm like, wow, that just feels like so much weight is off my shoulders now.
Why do you think that is?
Because you've addressed it, you put it out there. You've taken it out of here and you've put it on the table or to your other person.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't even have to be to another. It can be a piece of paper.
Or on a paper.
That you burn afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, putting it out there and looking at it, sometimes in our heads, it's so much worse than when you write it down. So the second type of therapy, which is a lot more directive. So these are two different extremes. Is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is incredible. You change the way people think. You know, you figure out thought patterns that are not serving any sort of purpose. If anything, they're holding you back in life.
Yeah.
And you help them target it and change it and understand it. And where does it come from? You know, this is a really important thing. We need to understand where it comes from. Why is it there? And then once we do, then what are we going to do about it? How are we going to change it? Yeah. We need to change our story. We need to change our script. So it's very powerful.
Is there a condition or a type of therapy from what you have done that you feel is the most challenging or difficult to conduct?
A type of therapy, I would say it's more about the resistant client rather than the type of therapy. You know, when you have a client that comes in and doesn't want to be there, is being forced, and I've definitely seen my fair share of that. They are in denial, don't really want to be treated, don't care. Those are the ones that are difficult. I wouldn't say it's the kind of therapy. I would just say the resistant client. I had a few years ago, a client, and I'll never forget it. A mom didn't tell her daughter she was taking her to see a therapist. Takes her daughter, we're going to see the doctor, just to check on you, you know, for school, a regular checkup. And she brought her, and, you know, I have this big plaque on my door, psychologist, Lina Hashem. And she saw it and she had a complete meltdown. And her mom kind of forced her into my office. And so I went close to her to try to, you know, just, you know, take a seat. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. Let's give it a try. She grabbed me and she bit me.
Oh my God.
So hard. So I had teeth marks for a week. And I wasn't upset. I was shocked. But to me, it just made me realize this girl really is troubled and needs help. And I was actually sad that they never came back again. So a client that doesn't want to be treated is what's difficult, not the actual. I feel anyone can change.
The resistance is the challenge. Resistance
is. But anyone that wants to change can change.
That's true.
If you put in the time, persistent, consistent, you can change.
The old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Absolutely.
Applies here. Mm-hmm. Have you ever sought therapy yourself?
I have. I had to when I was studying, and I was one of those clients in denial. I don't have anything wrong with me. I had so much wrong with me. I had no idea. And I remember it took me several therapists before I actually connected. And the one I connected with was an older man. And it makes sense to me because I guess he was very wise and reminded me of my father. So he was someone I really respected and listened to. So yes, I have, and I still continue to have a therapist now. Mm-hmm. It helps balance me and my mind keeps things in perspective.
It's funny, you never think that even therapists require therapy.
Of course, we definitely need it.
And your therapist probably has a therapist.
For sure.
Lina, your profession requires you to listen to people's problems.
Right.
And I cannot help but think that you take those stories with you and, they probably keep you up late at night. It's something that you think about. End of the day, you're human. How much of the stories that you had to hear from your years in therapy have they weighed down on you post-therapy session?
Being a therapist can be extremely rewarding, but at the same time can be extremely emotionally draining. And when I'm not taking care of myself, in a sense, my life isn't balanced, I do find that therapy or the sessions that I have definitely can drain me. So because I've been exposed to a lot of stories when I was younger, as I said earlier, I developed this thick skin. But yes, I am human. And I'm actually a very emotional person. And I have to keep it together in those sessions. And I hear really heart-wrenching, difficult stories that I just want to sit and cry with them or hug them or tell them everything's going to be okay. Well, I can't do that because I don't know if everything's going to be okay. So definitely I have felt drained, therapist burnout, as they say. And it's difficult, but I know when that happens. That happens when I'm not taking care of myself. So it's difficult, but unfortunately, I've learned that this is life. Everyone gets dealt a hand in life, and no matter what hand you get, you can always play it where you can still be, even if you have 5 2s, let's say, an ace being the highest. If you play your cards right, you can win. So I always have hope. So even when I hear the worst stories, I still have hope that everything will be okay. There's always something they can learn from it, something that can come out of it, if that makes sense to you. But when I do find myself, I'm really drained, usually I have to look inwards and check in with myself and say, well, what am I not doing right? Why am I being impacted? I know this is the way life is. So yes, I have. And a lot of people have asked me that, but I try to manage it as much as I can.
Tough job.
Sorry.
I mean, just by virtue of what you're exposed to, us non-therapists aren't exposed to that. When we're exposed to that? Watching a horror movie.
Right.
It's just occurred to me right now.
Yeah.
Like I watch a horror movie, I love horror, but then I struggle sleeping that night. So I'm trying to limit.
I feel therapists become slightly desensitized, because we're exposed to it so much that you realize how, ugly the world can be and how difficult it can be. But even when it's difficult and even when it's ugly, you can still find the light. You can still find the beauty, and it's helping them find that beauty. And that's why, to avoid the sort of burnout, I do keep my life very separate from my work. I don't talk about my work outside of the office. I don't have social media that if you go to there's nothing on therapy or psychology. I switch off once I'm out of that office. And if I'm withdrawing from my husband and kids, which I do sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, they understand it. I've communicated it with them. I'll contact my therapist. I'll see a healer. I'll do whatever I need to get myself back up. But yeah, it can be tough at times.
Do you feel like it's 2 separate lives?
Maybe in a sense.
Why did that come off in a negative way? When people said you have 2 separate lives, we take it as... I didn't mean it that way.
No, I know what you meant. I know what you meant.
2 different hats.
Yes. Yeah, I have more than 2 hats. I have several hats. Wouldn't say 2 different lives. I just keep the lives separate as much as I can.
You have to.
And I've worked on that. It wasn't always like that. I used to give my clients my number. I'd wake up in the morning. I'd have 15 missed calls and messages, and I'm trying to enjoy my morning with my family. I've definitely learned that lesson, so I really keep it separate. It's still part of my life, and I care so much for my clients, and I love what I do, but I have to keep it separate for my sake and for my family's sake.
Thanks.
But I have to say, being a therapist has made me a much better person.
Better. And I was going to ask you, stronger as well?
Much stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how better? I'm sure, but can you just go into a bit more detail on that?
I guess it's made me better because, first of all, I do see what goes on in the world. So I'm very grateful for what I have. It makes me count my blessings. Also, it really makes me want to be a better person. I want to help myself to be able to help others. It's taught me patience. I just believe that with all the exposure that I've had and the experiences that I've had, it's really pushed me to be the best version of myself. And I stress on myself, not comparing myself to anyone else. So, yeah, let's say it's made me better, just generally. Yeah. And I've worked on myself. I've worked on myself a lot. So, truly,
I mean, blessings. You touched on that word.
You have to count your blessings. People forget to be grateful and thankful. And do you wake up in the morning and think, oh, I am so grateful for my wife, for my son, for my job, we lose sight of that. We take things for granted. And I have to say that's something that this job makes me do, reminds me to count my blessings.
Being exposed to people from different walks of life.
So count your blessings starting tomorrow, every morning.
Definitely. I think that is a route to happiness.
Yeah. Really appreciating what you have, because all it takes
just that
is that, but it can all just, not to sound cynical and depressing, but it can all just disappear in 1 second.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I have value, and I'm grateful for my car when it's in service. Outside of work and the realm of therapy and everything you do professionally, what grounds you? How do you take a break from all of that? What allows you to keep a balanced life?
I surround myself with good people, family, friends. I have a great support system, alhamdulillah. Great husband, children, parents. I feel blessed with that. So I definitely turn to them. I exercise a lot. Anyone that knows me knows how much I love to exercise.
What do you do?
I do everything. I do all kinds of things.
Nothing specific. You just do the whole...
I do everything.
Nice.
I do everything. But everyone's different, right? Everyone's different. So it could be art, could be journaling, keeping a diary, reading. I mean, I obviously do all those things too. But singing for me is something that I have started to do in the last 2 years, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Meditation, that's something that is recommended a lot.
For sure.
How has that changed your life?
I haven't always had a good relationship with meditation. It took me a while to get into it, but because I know the benefits, I forced it. And I have to say, I am so thankful and grateful that I have. Because when you meditate, it not only increases your awareness of yourself, you're present, you feel connected to you as a person, but at the same time, in your brain, it actually makes a huge difference. The cell volume in your amygdala, which is the part of the brain that's processes emotions of anxiety and fear, it decreases. So it allows you to really just take in this moment and enjoy, and taking that time out. It's wonderful.
You seem like a very happy person, mashallah. Inshallah, always. Is there anything out there that terrifies you, scares you, something that when you are encountered with it, you're like, my God, not this again? And don't say scary movie.
No. I think what terrifies me, and it roots back to when I was a child, is loss, death. That's something I have a hard time dealing with my clients too. I know it's a part of life and it's inevitable. but it's a really sad part of life. And it's not something we can control. But instead of worrying about it and fearing it, I think, okay, I look around me and I think, okay, this is, I have this. I have these people now. I have my life. Let me maximize on that rather than worry about losing someone. Let me make the most while I do have that time, going back to that appreciation. So I would say loss. Loss is very difficult because it's the one thing no one can control.
Did you lose someone at a young age?
No. Alhamdulillah.
So then why are you scarred from it?
It's not that I was scarred. I was a pretty anxious child when I was younger. I was very anxious and I used to worry. And it was triggered by a fire that I was a young kid and my dad came in the middle of the night to pick me out of my bed. All of us ran outside and there was a fire in the house. And that definitely triggered my anxiety. And it's something that I suffered with but I didn't even know what I had. No one talked about it. I just know that I used to go into my parents' bed till I was 12 years old every single night. I'd lie in bed crying that something might happen to my family, something might happen to me. So I didn't realize what I had until I got into
This
therapy. Yeah. So, I was quite an anxious child.
You therapists are very secretive. You don't like saying who you work with. You're like, Mo, I don't like where this is going.
Exactly.
What's something that we don't know about you? Give us the scoop on Lina.
Oh. What you don't know about me. I mean, it's not that exciting, but I would say that I was an extremely shy and anxious child. A lot of people don't see that, don't believe it. And that was part of the reason why it drove me to want to change myself. I didn't like it. It limited me. I missed out on a lot of opportunities. So around people I'm very close to growing up, I was very outgoing. But in new situations, new people, I would just withdraw and go silent. I wouldn't be able to talk. Sometimes people would think I was arrogant, but it wasn't the case at all. I would try out for things, stand up on stage, and nothing would come out. Presentations, I would ask the people in the group to present for me, and I'd sit there in the back giggling. And it would be, they'd see me as someone who was just mischievous and disrespectful. And it wasn't like that. It was more, I didn't know how to deal with what I was going through at the time. So I would say shy, anxious, but I am living proof that you can change. You face your limitations and you work on it, you desensitize them, and you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. That's really important for everyone to know, not to just give in to how you were, how you are. Set goals for yourself and work towards them. Anyone can change.
On a scale of introvert, extrovert being a 10, introvert being a 1, in terms of outgoingness and how you carry yourself, where do you see yourself on that? There is something in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Metavert?
Yes. What I would say is I am, when I was younger, I would say I was more 4, 3.
Towards intro.
Yeah. But as I've gotten older, I would say maybe I'm about 7, 8. I still have moments where you'll find I withdraw. I stay quiet. Too many people talking at the same time, or I'll withdraw a little bit.
You gravitate towards more meaningful conversations than...
Absolutely. And I like the one-on-ones.
Yeah. That's you. I mean, that's your habitat.
That is my habitat. And I guess that's part of the reason why I was drawn to that. But I do like tapping into people, going deep with them and really having meaningful conversations.
So this hopefully is within your...
Oh, this is great. Minus the cameras. No, but this is great. This is great. I mean, this has been really wonderful. I've loved it.
I'm glad.
I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to be here today.
And you know what? I know this is something that you haven't done. So for you to put yourself out there and come on this, A, bravo, got outside your comfort zone. Do one thing every day that scares you.
For sure.
And B, maybe this is just the start of many more podcasts that you do. And يعني, you know, when you put yourself out there and you do something that you wouldn't normally do, it adds a different, you level up.
Yes.
You have like, okay,
Yes.
another building block on top.
Yes. But I do want to touch on something that we haven't touched. Is, you know, coming, you know, leading up to today, I did have that critical voice, you know. As I told you, I wasn't feeling at my best. And when you're not feeling at your best, this nagging voice creeps up into your head and starts feeding you with the most appalling, negative, self-sabotaging thoughts that we tend to believe is the truth. And we listen to it. And the more we listen to it, the more power it has over us. And it really can limit our progress, experiences. You know, anytime you step outside of that comfort zone, that voice starts feeding you and manipulating you and just wants to hold you back. It thinks that, you know, it tricks you into believing that's protecting you, but it's actually hurting you. So this is something that I believe is so important to touch on, talk about, because it's something I see every single day in my office. And that critical voice can be dealt with. You know, we all have it. And maybe the only people who don't have it are narcissists. But pretty much everyone has a critical voice. So what do we do about it? How do we deal with it? Where does it come from? So these are important questions that I believe need to be touched on. Do you have a critical voice?
Yeah, the last 2 days, I've heard it a lot more frequently. Critical voice.
Why do you think that is?
Because I'm self-critical. I'm my biggest critic. Nobody could tell me anything about me that I haven't told myself. I really beat myself up.
But do you think it's coming from you? Because it is coming from you today.
Yep.
But where does it originally come? Whose voice, and you don't have to answer that, but whose voice is that? You know, usually the critical voice originates in our childhood. And it's messages internalized from parents, from caregivers, from teachers, that we internalize and make it our own. And we believe it to be true, and we're driven by it. So it is so important to identify whose voice is that? Is that my voice? Where is it coming from?
Yeah. I know where it's coming from. In school, we were, especially in England, we were categorized in terms of abilities.
Right.
And in 5 math classes, I was in number 5, being the weakest. Which is funny, actually, because what you're doing is you're putting the best with the best, and the mediocres, and the most challenged with the most challenged. So you're eliminating the element of the good rubbing off those who aren't and being picked up. So I have a question mark over that approach. Is segregating, categorizing based on intelligence or mathematic abilities.
Right.
So maybe that was an element that made me feel that you know, I am not as smart as I am, or I have self-doubt. And this came from the age of 11.
Right.
So yeah, you know, looking back in childhood, I think that definitely affected. I hope to God that's not the same way at school.
Still is.
It still
I was just
is.
about to say.
I have a problem with that.
My girls go to a British school, and they definitely have them in different levels.
Yeah, based on
well, the older, the year 7 plus, they are in different levels, and it's 5 levels. So yeah, I think, but it's important also to help, you know, your child look at that it's not such a bad thing. If anything, you know, it's kind of to help them. You know, for you were on your own dealing, so this was your own inner battle, but you never talked about it. But how do you deal with the critical voice?
It deals with me.
Right.
And I just wish that some days it wouldn't come. Will this podcast be successful? I've been doing it for a year and a half. You're episode 48.
Ooh,
What's
lucky
Will it
number.
be around for episode 70, 80, 100? Is it going to be successful? Is it going to grow? These things are on my mind.
Right.
Am I a good podcaster? Am I a good question asker? Can I be better? Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? You know, so there's,
Right.
yeah. You know what I wish? I wish I can hear the negatives. So I went to Al-Ula a week ago. The number of people that came up to me and they're like, you're the Mo show. Or my friends, Mo, by the way, amazing. Or my friends introducing me to those who I don't know. Oh, this is Mo from the Mo show. They're like, oh, of course we know him. We love what you do. It's amazing what you do. Great. I wish I can, and you know, I hope I know what I'm wishing for. But I would like to see the flip side of it where, oh, you're Mo from the Mo show. Can I tell you what I didn't like about episode this? I would be all ears.
Constructive
Give
criticism.
it to me, yes, because that's going to help me improve.
Right.
But you're more for the motion. Oh, we love this episode. Oh, we love what you did. Oh, we. Can I get an autograph? Can I get a picture? I got that. Who am I to give autographs or pictures? You know,
It's amazing. Though. You are doing a great job.
But like I'm just starting off, and I want to be better, and I can only be better with constructive criticism.
But you have to take it step by step, Mo. You're thinking of episode 70. Think of now. How can I do better today or in my next episode? Rather than, am I going to be around? Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah. The critical voice has no clue what's going to happen. It acts like it does. It sneaks into our minds when we're physically and emotionally depleted and starts whispering these awful things to us. And because we're emotionally depleted or tired or not in a good state of mind, we listen to it. And when we listen to it, it takes control. And the more we listen, the bigger and louder it becomes. So what do you do about it? This is important. And I really feel that clients need to know, people need to know that something can be done. You don't have to be controlled by the critical voice. You need to control the critical voice.
So how do I silence it?
It's not about silencing it. It's about understanding where it comes from and making peace with it in a sense. So what I normally do is, the first thing is educate them on what's happening in their brain. Second thing, we name it to tame it. So we give it a name so that we separate ourselves from it. So sometimes people give me their mother's name or their husband's name. I'm like, no. We need something that has no association to anyone. So, I get Jafar, I get Black, so we name it. Then we visualize what it can look like. So it becomes less scary. So when we name it, first of all, I moved away. When we name it, it gives us, we're no longer afraid of it. I know what it is. It's just a critical voice that's trying to bring me down. If I was to take these thoughts out of my head, what are they telling you? Tell me, what does it tell you? You're not good enough, you're not going to succeed. It acts like it knows everything and that it's psychic. It knows what's in the future.
Just question marks.
Lots of question marks. So why are we giving so much weight and focus on question marks when we know what's happening in our lives right now? Okay, so it's important for us to separate ourselves from it. Look at it like this is an illness. As long as I listen to it, I'm going to be ill. So I need to keep it separate. So give it a name, visualize what it looks like. You can even give it a funny voice, whatever you want, where you feel I'm the one in control. Once you do that and you've named it and it's under your control, it's important to challenge it, not just to make it disappear. You have to challenge it. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? Is this the truth? Am I going to fail at episode 70? Does it know the future? Is this an old habit, an old story? Okay. Once you've established that, you go on to what do I want to feel? How can I change it? I need to visualize what it is that I want. If I want to succeed, I need to visualize succeed.
Visualize.
Create your future through the mind and body connection. Okay. So these are, there are ways to quiet down that voice. Mm-hmm. So it's something I actually really enjoy doing with my clients. And I'm human. I get the critical voice too, but I don't allow it to control me.
Taming it is really a challenge.
Name to tame. Name to tame.
Name to tame. That's a good takeaway from how to deal with that voice. Name it and then tame it, and then you can control it eventually. Yeah.
Just like we control our kids. I'm kidding. We name them. We own them.
I'm not kidding.
No.
So we spoke about what scares you, something people don't know about you, and I want to flip it onto a positive. At what point in your life, Lina, do you feel most filled and alive and ready to conquer?
I have to say, when if it's work-wise, seeing my clients who had it really tough and hard and didn't believe in themselves, watching their journey and seeing the changes, it's just incredible and makes me so happy. I get a message from a client down the line saying, you really helped me, thank you, or you're part of this success story. And it just, I have to say, that's very, very rewarding. Makes me feel great. Climbing a mountain, adventure. I took on gymnastics recently. So I wanted to start flipping again. I found this great coach. Unfortunately, he left now. But when he was here, he taught, and I was flipping. I was doing something different and new. It exhilarates me. Being around my husband, my kids, my family.
The outdoors, climbing at all? Have you tried that?
Climbing properly? No, I've hiked.
Hiked.
Yeah, we did the 3 peaks.
Okay.
It was extremely difficult. That shower after was the best shower. I mean, we were on the bus, waterless toothbrushes and wipes. I mean, it was pretty. Not great at the time, but the feeling that you get afterwards is exhilarating. Yeah. It's incredible. That shower. I still remember that shower. And thank God it was a really nice big shower.
The harder you work for something, the more fulfilling that rest time is.
Oh, for sure. Delayed gratification is key. And this generation definitely does not know what that's like.
Quick fixes is how we operate.
Yeah. Quick fixes.
And I think I'm in Generation Z's category as well. We want quick fixes.
Yeah, but you can change that.
Like, if I want, of course you can, for sure. Delivery apps, they bother the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It's like that. Back in the day, you'd have to get into the car, drive, and you know what? I'm not going to get in the car and drive. And now it can come to you. It's a problem. Yeah. Reading this book called Atomic Habits.
Heard of it.
And one that he touches on that. He's like, delete Instagram. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, then I can also delete the delivery apps.
Yeah. And
in order to order again, I'm going to have to reinstall it. So that's something, an extra step I'm going to have to go to. Maybe I won't order because I don't want to, have to download the app and then log in again. And then he was talking about how people with addiction to TV and movies, one way to get rid of that habit would be to take the TV out of the living room and put it in the closet.
Right.
You'd have time away from the TV in order to watch it. You're going to have to go into the closet, carry it, put it in the plug it. So there's something that, yeah. That's an extreme case,
yes,
but make it harder for yourself to do the easy things that you would normally do.
Right.
Click of a button, boom, boom, boom. I've got a large cheese pizza on the way. Because it's too easy to get at these.
It's too easy.
Lina, from all the things that you've been through in your life, would you say that you have any regrets? Do you have regrets? Or are you a person that lives without regrets?
So I could probably give you a list of potential regrets based on the experiences I've had. But what I didn't know was that there's a reason why I had those experiences. They made me who I am. Without these failures, mistakes, I wouldn't have learned the lessons. And I feel it's really built a lot of character and made me the person that I am. So no, I have no regrets.
That's the healthy approach.
Right.
Because at one point in your life, you wanted to do that.
Yes.
And you did it for a reason.
Yes.
for better or worse, for stupider or smarter. I wanted to do that, so I shouldn't have regret. Learn from it.
Right.
Be better.
Valuable lessons.
But don't go back and dwell.
Right. Usually we dwell on the things we didn't do.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's better to say, I tried, I tested, I've come out okay, but maybe I probably wouldn't do it again.
Healthy. I'm very tough on myself. Again, as far as I'm concerned, this is not a podcast. This is a therapy session. I'm very tough on myself on looking back and saying, Mo, you should have done this, or you should have done that, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. You know, but it just weighs down on you for no reason.
For sure. And you know what? You are in the public eye now. This is something
scary.
No, it's something that you need to tackle and take care of. Because if you don't, it could be something that could end up hurting you. So it is something that I would recommend that you look into, dealing with that. Because once you're in the public eye, you're going to have all kinds of opinions. And, you know, as you grow, and it is really important to have your own and not be so impacted.
I'll be honest with you publicly. I was a lot more sensitive about what people thought about me before I started this. And the first couple of months was tough. And, you know, when you just become used to put yourself out there and you're going to get the good and the bad. And people's opinions of the show don't affect me the way they did the first 2 or 3 months. We're like negative comment. I used to delete it and report. Excuse me? Now, say whatever you want about me. Yeah, I'll keep it up there. You're entitled to your opinion.
Good.
And it's that's not where I win. Where I win is that I'm carrying that into my life. I don't care about what you think about me. 3-4 years ago, if person A doesn't like me, in my mind, I'm like, what do I have to do to get person A to like me? This is a disaster. I'm a people pleaser. Maybe I still am. But if you don't like me, that's your problem. Right. I'm happy with myself.
Good.
So I think that also the feeling of building something to some degree has given me gratification and validation to feel that I don't care what you think about me. I've got, you know, that the people that enjoy what I do and have given me, you know, like compliments far outweigh the negatives.
But more importantly, I think because you enjoy it and you feel good about it, that you're not easily affected by people's. If you weren't, you would probably absorb that negativity like this. But now that you're feeling more confident in it, you're happy with what you're doing, mashallah, your progress in such a short period of time, the way you've taken off, mashallah alaik, really.
Thank you.
You should be proud of yourself.
I appreciate it.
We're also proud of you.
It means a lot coming from you.
Really, it means it's true.
Lina, before I let you go, I know we've had you here for way longer than you have wished to be on here for. Lina, if you had the attention for society or the country or the region in some capacity for 30 seconds or so, is there a message that you'd like to send out?
That's so much pressure.
But I mean,
no, I know. I know what you're asking.
I'm thinking, yeah.
So what advice would I give the world?
If you had their attention, if the whole world looked at Lina for, you know what? If the whole world stopped what they were doing and looked at Lina, actually, for 20 seconds, and they're like, Lina, go. What would your advice, if you had all the ears of humanity?
Okay, I would probably say, because this is something that I feel everyone needs to do, in a sense, is if you have a problem or there's something that's stressing you out, rather than just focus on the stress or the problem, focus on ways to improve it. You know, a lot of the times we just focus on the problem and it just plays over and over and over and over, and we're not coming up with any sort of plan or change. Focus on what, you know, ask yourself, what can I do to make this better? Stop wasting your time just thinking over and over about the same thing. We all have situations that are difficult. So I'd say that. Is that fine?
It's amazing.
Really?
You touched on what Seneca's famous proverb was: we suffer more in imagination than in reality.
Well, that's true.
Stop overthinking it.
Stop overthinking and actually come up with some sort of plan. That's the thing. I have people that complain all the time, but it's like it's just the same thing over and over. It becomes their script. What can I do about it? So I really feel that's important. Treat people how you want to be treated. I mean, I have so much advice.
Sometimes the cliche are the ones that really hit home the most. I mean, there's a reason why they're cliche, because they're overused.
Yeah.
Treat people how you want to be treated. I mean, if humanity abided by that, Lina, the world would be a better place.
Really
we probably wouldn't be so scared about how the world our kids are growing up in.
Exactly. There's so much out there that we can do.
Truly.
But yeah, we can just be the best, try to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And do good for yourself and to others.
For real. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
I don't know.
Really.
I mean,
this was great. It was really great.
I think there's a lot of gems in this episode that can
sleep like a
uplift
baby
people's souls.
I hope so. Because I feel I don't even know what we've spoken about. But I hope so. I look forward to seeing it. Yes, two thumbs up.
Not more than me. Not more than me. Honestly, Lina, again, people in your capacity, I feel are the best, because you guys are out to help people.
Yeah, we try.
You know, and I admire you, like I admire doctors, for doing what you do. Because you have to deal with our problems.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh, you're so welcome.
We kept you here, a testament to how much knowledge and information and stories you have, way longer than we thought. We've been shooting for close to maybe 2 hours and a half, if I'm not mistaken, 2 hours and 45 minutes. And thank you for opening up on many things, general, personal, and for the questions you asked me.
And thank you for being you and letting me be comfortable. You really brought out, that side of me that needed to come out, that comfortable, relaxed side, because I wasn't that relaxed when I first started. But thank you so much.
Is there anything that we haven't covered? Is there something that you want to put out before we let you go?
I think we covered it.
I think in the amount of times we covered. I think
we're good. I think you're gonna have to puzzle together different parts of this.
Yeah, we will. Thanks so much. And alhamdulillah salamtik with Corona. It's the majority of us had to deal with it, but at least you had some alone time.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be so afraid of it anymore.
Shouldn't. Yeah,
we've been vaccinated 2 to 3 times. Khalas, get on with it.
Good.
Let's live our lives.
Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Thanks again, Lina.
You're welcome.
All the best.
You.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.